Okay, so now that we have those subdivisions, there's also something else we know. We know if we press the W key while having an object selected, we can translate it. We know if we press the E key that we can rotate it. And we know if we press the R key that we can scale it bigger or smaller. Well, that's the entire object itself. We can also use those buttons for just individual components of the primitive. And to do that, all you need to do is have the primitive selected, and then you hold down the right click, and we're currently on object mode. So if you ever just want to move the entire object again, just go to object mode. But instead I'm going to hover down to face mode. I'm going to select that, and you'll notice right away that right now I'm just hovering over an individual face of the object. And if I click that face, it selects just the face of the object. And I'm going to go ahead and press the W key right now. Okay, so I'm on translate mode. Now it's not going to move the entire object. Instead, it's just going to move the face of that object. Okay, so it essentially just moves the face however I want. And because the part of the cube is hooked to that face, it brings it all with it. Okay, so that was just the translate. If I press E, we can rotate it. Okay, we can overlap it. That's not the best, but we can rotate it. And if I press R, we can scale it. We can make it bigger or smaller. Okay, so that's just an individual face. We can also do multiple faces. So I'm going to deselect that just by clicking off the shape. And I'm going to select multiple faces. But if I click on multiple faces, it just kind of deselects them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select multiple faces. So hold down Shift, select multiple faces, and let's start with W again. So I'm going to go to W, and now I'm going to let go of Shift. So let go of Shift, and I'm going to show you why right after this. I've let go of Shift. I can now stretch out those four faces. I can rotate those four faces, and I can scale those four faces. Okay, just by pressing those W, E, and R keys. Okay, so that's great. We can do multiple things, with multiple faces. Okay, now why made you let go of Shift? We're going to do the same thing here, but this time I'm going to hold Shift. So I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to essentially scale this bigger, but you notice it's not letting me. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to try to scale it. It's not working out, so I'm going to press the W key. So I'm on W right now. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm holding down the Shift key with W currently pressed, and I'm going to extrude that out. So notice that versus before, when it essentially brought out the faces and everything connected to it was like kind of forced to join it. When you extrude out an object like this, it only brings out the faces and leaves all the other faces that weren't involved completely intact. Okay, so this is just one way you can actually extrude the object. And there's actually a few ways to extrude the object. But I'm not going to quite get into them in this video. I'm going to get into them in the next one. I want to show you a few other things. So that was this extruding, selecting one face and selecting multiple faces. Okay, if you hold down the right click, that was just faces. You can also go over to edges. And if I select edges, what it's going to allow me to do is the same thing, but now I'm not selecting faces, I'm selecting edges. And if you pull an edge, everything connected to that edge moves up with the object. Okay, so it all just kind of moved up with the object. Okay, and you could also select multiple edges. So just hold down that Shift key, and you could pull them. You could generate, multiple edge selections as well. Okay, so mess around with that, explore that a little bit. And the other thing you could do is hold down the Shift or hold down the right click, and you could go over to Vertex. And if you go over to Vertex, what it's going to do is not let you select the edges or the faces, but it's going to let you select those intersections. Okay, so where those edges meet, you're going to be able to select those. I'm going to switch over to Translate, and you're going to able to manipulate just the points themselves. Okay, and that's going to give you a lot more customization. Okay, so that's Vertex. Okay, and if you ever just want to go back to moving the object, hold down that right click, go over to object mode, and you can now translate the object in its entirety. Okay, so now that you kind of have that understanding of what you can do with those extrude tools and those kind of separate and pull tools and subdivisions, what your assignment is going to be is I would like you to create for me a giraffe. Okay? Doesn't have to be a good giraffe, doesn't have to be a great giraffe. I want you to work with those tools and see if you could generate 4 legs and try to give them like feet and try to generate a neck and a head and a face and maybe some eyes. I want you to try and create a giraffe over the next couple of days and see like how lifelike you can get it just by practicing these skills that I've demonstrated. Okay, before you even do that though, what I'd recommend doing is just checking out these other objects, messing around with the subdivisions and the extrusions, and just trying to understand it more. So once you have a good idea of what each of those do, go ahead, drop a cube or another shape onto your screen, and then try to create a giraffe out of just one polygon primitive. Okay, good luck. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.